Chapter 1. A Gentle Beginning. The medieval town of Millhaven settles into evening as embrace, like a weary traveler finding rest after a long journey. Its cobblestone streets still warm from the day's sun, holding the heat like cupped hands around a glowing ember. The last echoes of market cries fade into whispers carried away by a gentle breeze that carries the mingled scents of fresh bread from the yassa, baker's ovens hay from the stables, and the faint metallic tang of coins that have passed through countless hands throughout the day. Wooden shutters creak softly as they close against the approaching night, their hinges singing a lullaby of settling domesticity, while candlelight begins to flicker behind oiled parchment windows, casting dancing shadows that move like gentle spirits across the rough stone walls. Dear listener, as you settle into this moment, let your breath slow to match the rhythm of this ancient evening, your mind drifting like the smoke that rises from chimney tops, curling lazily toward a sky painted in deep purples and soft grays. Allow yourself to be transported to a time when gold was not merely numbers on a ledger, but solid, tangible weight in the palm, when trust was measured not in credit scores, but in the steady gaze between two souls, when the entire economy of a town could rest on handshakes and spoken promises that carried the weight of sacred oaths. The year is 1347, and Europe pulses with the quiet energy of commerce awakening from feudalism's long slumber. Trade routes stretch like veins through the continent, carrying not just goods, but ideas, dreams, and the revolutionary concept that ordinary people might borrow against tomorrow's hopes to build today's opportunities. In this world, where the church still debates whether charging interest is a sin, where kings mint coins bearing their own faces as symbols of divine authority, and where a man's word is worth more than any contract, the art of lending and borrowing unfolds with the delicate complexity of a rose opening to morning light. The town square, now nearly empty save for a few merchants securing their stalls for the night, had earlier bustled with the energy of commerce farmers from surrounding villages bringing grain and vegetables, artisans displaying their finest work, and traders from distant lands offering spices that carried the essence of far-off kingdoms. The fountain at the square's center continues its eternal song, water trickling from carved stone lions, mouths into a basin worn smooth by centuries of hands and buckets, its gentle splashing a constant rhythm that has measured the passage of countless lives, countless dreams, countless moments of decision that shaped the flow of gold and trust through this community. As twilight deepens, the air grows cooler, carrying with it a promise of dew on morning grass and the cycle of renewal that each dawn brings. The church bells have rung their final call to evening prayers, their bronze voices echoing off the timber-framed houses that lean companionably against each other, as if sharing whispered secrets accumulated over generations, of families who have called this place home. In the distance, the gentle lowing of cattle and the soft bleating of sheep create a pastoral symphony that speaks of the agricultural foundation upon which all medieval commerce ultimately rested. This is a world where gold is still mysterious, still magical, its warm gleam representing not just wealth, but possibility, transformation, the alchemical power to turn dreams into reality. Most people will never hold more than a few coins at once, their weight precious and significant, each piece bearing the mark of its origin, whether from the royal mint or hammered by a skilled craftsman in some distant city. Gold coins are not merely currency, but talismans carrying with them the essence of the earth from which they were drawn, refined through fire and shaped by human hands into perfect circles that can roll across continents, carrying value and trust from palm to palm, generation to generation. In the growing darkness, lanterns begin to appear, their warm light creating pools of safety and civilization against the vast mystery of the night. Watchmen make their rounds, their footsteps echoing softly on stone, their presence a reassurance that order prevails, that contracts will be honored, that the delicate web of trust that makes commerce possible will be protected through the vulnerable hours of darkness. The scent of wood smoke grows stronger as families gather around their hearths, sharing the day's earnings, planning tomorrow's endeavors, passing down the oral traditions of trade and commerce that have sustained communities since time immemorial. Here, in this moment suspended between day and night, between medieval tradition and the emerging possibilities of a more complex economic future, our story begins to unfold. It is a tale that will take us through narrow streets made luminous with moonlight, into the shadowed corners where moneylenders conduct their mysterious business, and deep into the heart of what it means to trust and be trusted, to borrow and to lend, to bind our futures to promises that exist only in the fragile realm of human faith and mutual dependence. The town breathes quietly around us, its rhythm slow and steady like a great sleeping creature dreaming of morning markets and afternoon trades, of gold changing hands and promises being made, of the eternal dance between need and opportunity that drives all human commerce. As we prepare to follow our story's gentle path, let the peace of this medieval evening settle over you like a warm cloak, wrapping you in the timeless comfort of community, tradition, and the enduring human capacity to trust in tomorrow's possibilities. Chapter 2. The Need for Gold. As the veil of night fully descends upon Millhaven, wrapping the town in its soft enveloping darkness, like a mother's gentle embrace, our humble protagonist, a man named Elias, stirs in his modest dwelling on the outskirts of the square, where the thatched roof above him whispers faintly with the night's gentle breeze filtering through tiny gaps. Elias is a simple laborer, his days spent toiling in the fields or assisting at the local mill, his hands roughened by years of honest work, calluses forming like ancient bark on weathered trees, each one a testament to the quiet endurance that defines life in this medieval world. The room is small and dimly lit by a single tallow candle, its flame flickering softly, casting long, dancing shadows on the whitewashed walls, where simple woven tapestries hang, depicting scenes of harvest and home, their colors faded but warm, evoking memories of seasons past. Dear listener, allow yourself to sink deeper into this serene moment, your own breath matching the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of Elias's chest as he lies upon his straw-filled mattress, the faint rustle of the bedding, a soothing lullaby that speaks of rest earned through diligent labor. The air in the room carries the comforting scent of cooling hearth ashes, mingled with the earthy aroma of the thatch overhead and the subtle sweetness of dried herbs hanging from the rafters. Lavender and sage bundled to ward off the chill and invite peaceful dreams. Outside, the night is alive with subtle sounds. The distant hoot of an owl perched in an ancient oak, the soft patter of nocturnal creatures scurrying through underbrush, and the occasional creak of a neighbor's gate swinging in the wind, all blending into a symphony of tranquility that invites introspection. In this quiet hour, as Elias gazes at the play of light and shadow on the low-beamed ceiling, a gentle realization begins to dawn within him, not with the force of a storm, but with the gradual unfolding of a flower petal under morning dew. He has long harbored a dream, a modest aspiration born from years of observing the merchants in the town square, their stalls laden with goods that draw crowds and fill pouches with the clink of coins. Elias envisions himself as one of them, not seeking vast fortunes or opulent wealth, but a small trade, a humble venture in crafting wooden tools or weaving baskets from the willows that line the nearby river, items that could be sold at market to provide a steadier life for his family, shielding them from the uncertainties of seasonal labor and the whims of weather. Yet to begin this path, he needs gold-solid, gleaming coins that represent more than mere metal. They are the key to materials, to tools, to the very foundation of turning dreams into reality. Feel the weight of this need settling upon Elias like a soft blanket, not oppressive, but thoughtful, prompting him to rise slowly from his bed, his bare feet touching the cool, packed earth floor smooth from years of footsteps grounding him in the present as he moves to the small window. Peering out, he sees the moonlit landscape beyond the town, fields stretching like silver seas under the pale light, where crops sway gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling with a sound like whispered secrets. In medieval times, gold was the lifeblood of ambition, the tangible essence of wealth that flowed through society's veins, enabling the humble to rise and the prosperous to expand. But for men like Elias, whose pockets hold only copper pennies scraped from daily wages, the path to acquiring such gold often led through the doors of money lenders, those quiet figures who practiced the emerging art of medieval banking, extending credit based on trust and the promise of repayment, turning debt into a bridge toward fortune. The candle's flame wavers slightly as Elias paces the room, its light reflecting in his eyes, warm and contemplative, illuminating the simple furnishings. A wooden table scarred from family meals, stools crafted by his own hands, and a chest containing the few possessions that mark his life. A worn cloak, a Bible with pages softened by repeated reading, and a small pouch of saved coppers that, while cherished, fall far short of the sum needed to borrow into possibility. He thinks of his wife, sleeping peacefully in the alcove, her breathing steady and calm, and their young son curled nearby, dreaming innocent dreams, and feels a quiet resolve building within him, like the slow gathering of dawn light on the horizon. To provide for them, to build a legacy beyond the cycle of labor, he must seek to borrow gold, entering the world of credit where trust becomes the true currency, more valuable than any hoard of shining metal. In this era of 1347, when Europe was awakening to new forms of commerce, amid the shadows of plagues and wars yet to come, the need for gold was a common thread weaving through all levels of society. Kings borrowed vast sums to fund campaigns. Merchants sought loans to outfit ships for distant trades. And even humble folk like Elias turned to lenders for the spark to ignite their modest enterprises. The air outside grows cooler, carrying the scent of damp soil from the fields where the earth rests after a day of yielding its bounty, reminding Elias that all growth requires an initial investment, a seed planted with hope, nurtured with care, and harvested in due time. He imagines the weight of gold in his hands, not as a burden of debt, but as a tool of transformation, allowing him to purchase the willow branches, the carving knives, the market stall fee that would set his trade in motion. As Elias returns to his bed, extinguishing the candle with a gentle puff, plunging the room into moonlit darkness softened by the glow, filtering through the window, he lies back and lets his thoughts drift like clouds across a starry sky. The need for gold is clear now, a quiet calling that resonates in his soul, not with urgency or desperation, but with the peaceful certainty of a path unfolding naturally. In medieval banking, such needs were met through careful conversations, where lenders assessed not just assets but character, extending credit as an act of shared faith in human potential. Elias closes his eyes, the mattress conforming to his form, its straw scent earthy and reassuring, and allows sleep to approach on soft footsteps, knowing that tomorrow will bring the first steps toward fulfilling this gentle aspiration. The night deepens around him, stars twinkling like scattered jewels in the vast expanse above, each one a reminder that even in darkness, light persists, and possibilities await those who seek them with open hearts. Elias's breathing slows, merging with the night's rhythm, his mind filled with visions of market days to come, where borrowed gold could bloom into earned wealth, sustained by trust and honest effort. There is no rush in this realization. It unfolds like a river finding its course, meandering through valleys of thought, carrying with it the promise of change without disruption. Dear listener, as you accompany Elias in this moment of quiet revelation, let your own needs and dreams surface gently in your mind, floating like leaves on a still pond, unhurried and at peace. Feel the cool night air imaginary against your skin, the soft rustle of bedding, the distant call of nature's nocturne, all conspiring to draw you deeper into relaxation. In medieval times, the need for gold was often the catalyst for profound personal journeys, where debt became a teacher of resilience, and credit a testament to human connection. And so, as sleep claims Elias at last, his resolve takes root like a seed in fertile soil, leading us softly onward to the walk that will carry him toward the lender's door, where trust awaits its gentle awakening. Chapter 3. The Walk to the Lender. As the first blush of dawn paints the eastern sky in hues of soft rose and gentle gold, like the careful brushstrokes of an unseen artist awakening the world from its nocturnal slumber, Elias rises from his bed in the quiet sanctuary of his home, the straw mattress releasing a faint, earthy scent as he stands, his body attuned to the slow rhythm of morning, in this medieval town of Millhaven. The air inside is cool and still, carrying the lingering whisper of last night's fire, now reduced to glowing embers in the hearth. Their subtle warmth, a comforting presence that eases the transition from dream to waking. He dresses unhurriedly, slipping into his woolen tunic and simple breeches, the fabric soft against his skin, worn smooth from years of faithful service, and fastens his leather belt, feeling the empty pouch at his side, a silent reminder of the gold he seeks to borrow, the credit he hopes to secure through trust and honest intent. Dear listener, let this tranquil dawn envelop you, as well your breaths deepening to match the steady pulse of the emerging. Day your mind drifting like mist over sleeping fields, allowing the serenity of medieval mornings to wash over you like a gentle wave lapping at the shore. Outside Elias's door, the world stirs softly, the distant crow of a rooster breaking the silence, not with sharpness, but with a melodic call that echoes through the mist-shrouded streets, blending with the faint rustle of leaves in the light breeze, creating a symphony of awakening that feels eternal, unchanging, as if time itself pauses to savor the moment. The sky lightens gradually, stars fading one by one, like candles being extinguished in a vast cathedral, revealing a canopy of pale blue that promises a day of quiet possibility. Elias steps out into the narrow lane, his leather-soled shoes padding softly on the uneven cobblestones, each stone worn smooth by generations of footsteps. Their surface is cool and slightly damp from the night's dew, providing a grounding sensation that connects him to the earth and the history embedded in every path. The streets of Millhaven are a labyrinth of shadow and emerging light winding between, timber-framed houses that lean companionably toward one another, their thatched roofs glistening with moisture, droplets catching the first rays of sun like scattered jewels reflecting the promise of wealth that gold might bring. The air is crisp and invigorating, scented with the fresh aroma of damp soil from nearby gardens, where herbs and vegetables push through the earth in obedient rows, mingled with the subtle smoke from early risen hearths, where families begin their day with simple porridge and shared warmth. As he walks, Elias feels the gentle incline of the path leading toward the town center, his steps measured and unhurried, each one sensing with his steady heartbeat, allowing thoughts to flow like a calm river through his mind. He passes by the baker's shop, where the door stands ajar, releasing waves of warm, yeasty fragrance that evoke memories of childhood comforts, the scent wrapping around him like a soft embrace, reminding him that life's simple pleasures often underpin greater aspirations. In this medieval era of 1347, the walk to a moneylender was not a journey of desperation, but one of thoughtful resolve, where borrowing gold represented a step into the emerging world of banking, a realm where trust formed the foundation of credit and debt was viewed as a mutual agreement to share in future fortunes. Lenders, often Jewish or Lombard merchants operating under royal charters, provided essential services in towns like this, extending loans not just to nobles, but to common folk, fostering wealth through calculated risks grounded in human connection. The narrow stone streets twist and turn, their walls rising on either side like silent guardians, adorned with creeping ivy that softens the rough-hewn blocks, leaves rustling faintly as Elias brushes past, their green freshness a contrast to the gray stone, evoking the balance between nature's gentleness and man's structured endeavors. Overhead swallows dart gracefully through the air, their wings slicing the morning mist with effortless elegance, their cheerful chirps alight, counterpoint to the deeper sounds of the town awakening, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer striking anvil rhythmic and deliberate like the steady forging of one's own destiny. The soft lowing of cattle being driven to pasture their bells, tinkling with a melodic calm that speaks of pastoral continuity. Elias pauses for a moment at a small crossroads, where a stone cross stands weathered by time, its surface carved with faint symbols of faith, inviting quiet reflection on the moral dimensions of borrowing. In medieval times, the Church's teachings on usury cast a gentle shadow over such transactions, yet practical needs often bridged the gap between doctrine and daily life, allowing credit to flow as a river of opportunity. Feel the cobblestones beneath your own feet, dear listener. Imagine their cool texture pressing upward, grounding you in this historical tapestry, where every step Elias takes carries the weight of cultural context. A feudal system still holds sway, with lords owning vast lands, but towns like Millhaven are budding centers of commerce, where guilds regulate trades and markets pulse with the exchange of goods, money changing hands in quiet negotiations that build personal fortunes. Elias's mind wanders to stories he has heard around the tavern fire-tailies of men who borrowed gold to outfit a cart for market, repaying their debt with interest from successful ventures, turning humble beginnings into stable wealth, all sustained by the invisible thread of trust that binds lender to borrower. The air grows milder as the sun climbs higher, its rays filtering through overhanging branches, casting dappled patterns on the path that dance like golden coins scattered by a generous hand, symbolizing the wealth he seeks. Further along, the streets widen slightly as he approaches the town square, now stirring with early activity vendors unfolding their stalls with deliberate care, the wooden frames creaking softly, fabrics of wool and linen unfurling in colors of earth and sky, their textures inviting touch even from afar. The fountain at the center continues its eternal trickle, water splashing gently into the basin, a sound that has soothed countless walkers like Elias, its clear flow a metaphor for the circulation of gold in medieval banking, where money lent today returns multiplied tomorrow, fostering growth without disruption. He nods to a passing neighbor, a weaver carrying bundles of thread, their exchange a simple greeting spoken in low, warm tones, reinforcing the community bonds that make borrowing possible. In this world, one's reputation is collateral more valuable than land trust, the true measure of creditworthiness. As the lender's establishment comes into view at the far end of the square, a modest building of stone and timber with a discreet sign bearing a balanced scale symbol of fair dealings, Elias feels a soft wave of anticipation, not tension, but a peaceful readiness, like the calm before a familiar ritual. The walk has been a meditation, each sensory detail, the scent of blooming wildflowers peeking from wall cracks, the feel of the breeze on his face, the distant hum of town life, weaving a tapestry of serenity that prepares him for the encounter ahead. In medieval Europe, such journeys to lenders were commonplace, yet profound, bridging the gap between need and fulfillment, where debt became a pathway to empowerment, and fortune awaited those who approached with honest hearts. The sun, now fully risen, casts a golden light over everything, illuminating the path's final stretch, where shadows shorten and details sharpen, the intricate carvings on doorframes, the play of light on puddles from last night's dew, all converging to guide Elias forward. He breathes deeply, inhaling the mingled scents of market spices wafting from nearby stalls, cinnamon and clove, exotic hints of distant trades that gold could unlock for him too. There is no haste in his final steps. The walk has been a gentle unfolding, a bridge from private aspiration to public action, reminding us that in the quiet rhythms of medieval life, every journey toward borrowing gold was, at its core, a testament to human resilience and interconnectedness. And so, as Elias reaches the threshold of the lender's door, its heavy oak surface standing solid and inviting, he pauses to gather his thoughts, the morning's serenity wrapping around him like a protective cloak, leading us softly into the weight of what lies beyond. Chapter 4. The Weight of the Door. As Elias stands before the lender's door in the heart of Millhaven's awakening square, the heavy oak surface looms before him like an ancient sentinel guarding secrets of fortune and fate, its wood darkened by years of weather and touch grains, swirling in patterns that speak of forests long felled and craftsmen whose hands shape this barrier between the ordinary world and the realm of medieval banking. The door is sturdy, reinforced with iron bands that gleam dully in the morning light, their cool metal a stark contrast to the warm stone facade of the building, where ivy climbs lazily up the walls, leaves rustling faintly in the breeze, as if whispering encouragements to those who pause here, contemplating the step from dreamer to borrower. Elias feels a subtle shift in the air around him, a quiet tension that is not fear, but the soft gravity of transition, like the moment before a leaf falls from its branch, drifting gently to the ground without rush or drama. Dear listener, allow this threshold moment to envelop you in its serene embrace, your own breath slowing to match the deliberate pace of Elias's hand as it reaches for the key. Iron latch cool and smooth under his fingers worn by countless others who have stood in this very spot seeking to borrow gold and weave their dreams into the fabric of reality. The latch gives with a soft click, a sound that resonates like a distant bell tolling in a quiet valley, and as he pushes, the door swings inward on well-oiled hinges, creaking ever so faintly, a low sigh that blends with the morning symphony, the trickle of the nearby fountain, the murmur of early market vendors arranging their wares, and the gentle cooing of doves perched on rooftops, all conspiring to create an atmosphere of peaceful anticipation rather than unease. The air that wafts out from within carries the subtle sense of aged parchment beeswax from candles and the faint metallic tang of coins handled in quiet. Transactions inviting Elias, and you dear listener, into a space where money takes on almost sacred quality, a vessel for trust and credit in this medieval world. Stepping across the threshold, Elias feels the weight of the door closing behind him with a soft thud, sealing away the outside bustle and enveloping him in the dim, hushed interior, where light filters through narrow windows fitted with leaded glass, casting patterned shadows on the flagstone floor, cool and uneven underfoot, each stone a piece of the earth's history laid down for this purpose. The room is modest, yet dignified, its walls lined with wooden shelves holding neatly stacked ledgers, bound in leather, their spines cracked from used pages filled with the careful script of past dealings records of gold-lent debts, repaid fortunes built through the delicate balance of risk and reliability. A large oak table dominates the center, its surface polished to a warm sheen scattered with quills, inkpots, and a set of brass scales that glint softly, symbols of fair measure in an era where wealth was weighed not just in metal, but in the integrity of one's word. Feel the quiet tension settling like a fine mist over Elias, not as a storm of anxiety, but as a gentle veil that heightens his senses, drawing attention to the room's serene details. The faint crackle of a small fire in the corner brazier, its flames dancing low and steady, emitting a comforting warmth that chases away the morning chill, scented with the aromatic smoke of oak logs mingling with the musty essence of old books and the subtle perfume of sealing wax. In medieval times, entering such a place for the first time was a rite of passage, a step into the emerging world of banking, where money lenders, often operating under the protection of local guilds or royal edicts, served as gatekeepers to credit, extending loans based on trust rather than mere collateral, allowing humble folk like Elias to borrow gold and transform it into personal fortune through honest endeavor. The air feels thicker here, charged with the invisible energy of past transactions, where debt was not a chain but a bridge, connecting need to opportunity in the slow rhythm of repayment. Elias pauses just inside, his eyes adjusting to the softer light, taking in the lender himself, a man of middle years seated behind the table, dressed in a simple woolen robe of deep blue, his face lined with the quiet wisdom of one who has witnessed many such entries, his eyes calm and assessing, not judgmental but thoughtful, like a shepherd surveying his flock. The lender sets aside a ledger with deliberate care, the pages rustling softly like leaves in an autumn breeze, and nods to Elias, inviting him forward with a gesture that speaks of routine hospitality, the kind extended in medieval banking houses, where every visitor was treated with the dignity of potential partnership. There is no rush in this space. Time seems to stretch, allowing Elias to feel the weight of the moment, the subtle pressure of stepping into a world where gold flows not freely, but through channels of agreement, where trust is the true currency, underpinning every exchange of money and wealth. As he approaches the table, Elias feels the floorboards give slightly under his weight, a creak that echoes faintly, grounding him further in the physicality of this encounter, the wood's warmth rising through his shoes, connecting him to the building's sturdy foundation, much like how credit in medieval society provided a base for economic growth, allowing debts to be shouldered without collapse. The lender's voice, when he speaks, is low and even, like the steady flow of a river over smooth stones. "Welcome, good sir. What brings you to seek the services of credit and gold on this fine morning?" But before words are exchanged, Elias absorbs the room's aura, the quiet tension manifesting as a heightened awareness of his own heartbeat, steady and unhurried, sensing with the distant toll of the church bell outside, marking the hour without urgency. A reminder that in 1347, life's paces were dictated by natural rhythms, not the frantic clocks of later eras. Imagine, dear listener, the texture of the air here slightly warmer near the brazier, where embers glow with a soft orange hue, casting flickering lights that play across the scales on the table, their brass arms balanced, perfectly ready to weigh not just coins, but the equity of promises. Elias's hands rest lightly on the table's edge, feeling the wood's grain, smooth from years of palms pressing in similar moments of quiet resolve, each touch a thread in the tapestry of medieval commerce, where borrowing gold was an act of faith, debt a shared journey toward prosperity, and fortune something cultivated through patience and mutual respect. The quiet tension builds subtly like the slow drawing of a bowstring, but without the release of an arrow, only the potential, hanging in the air like incense, inviting deeper reflection on the cultural context. In this time, lenders often charged modest interest, navigating the church's prohibitions on usury by framing fees as gifts or compensations, ensuring that wealth circulated ethically, fostering communities where trust bound people more tightly than any legal writ. The room's details continue to unfold in Elias's perception. The faint scent of ink drying on parchment, black and glossy in its pot, ready to inscribe agreements that would bind borrower and lender in a dance of credit. A tapestry on the far wall, depicting a serene landscape of rolling hills and distant towers, its threads woven in muted greens and golds, evoking the enduring nature of wealth built over time. And a small hourglass on a shelf, sand trickling grain by grain, a visual lullaby measuring the unhurried flow of this first encounter. Elias feels no overwhelming pressure, only a gentle pull toward the conversation ahead. The weight of the door, now a metaphor for the threshold crossed. From hesitation to engagement, in a world where medieval banking was evolving from temple treasuries and merchant guilds into something more accessible, allowing men like him to borrow and build without nobility's privileges. As the lender leans forward, slightly preparing to engage, Elias draws a deep breath, inhaling the room's composed atmosphere, feeling the quiet tension ease into a peaceful readiness, like mist lifting from a morning meadow to reveal clear paths ahead. In this space, money is demystified, revealed as a tool of human connection, gold as a means to ends rather than an end itself, trust as the bedrock upon which all credit stands. The moment stretches serene and profound, allowing Elias to center himself, his emotions calm and reflective, embodying the cultural ethos of the time, where debt was approached with solemnity, but not dread fortune, seen as a harvest reaped from seeds of mutual faith. And so, with the weight of the door now fully behind him, Elias settles into the chair, offered the quiet tension transforming into the gentle flow of dialogue, leading us softly into the conversation of trust that will unfold in these hallowed walls. Chapter 5. The Conversation of Trust. As Elias eases into the sturdy wooden chair across from the lender, its legs scraping softly against the flagstone floor like a whisper in a quiet library, the room's serene atmosphere deepens, wrapping around them like a warm shawl on a cool evening. The brazier's gentle glow casting flickering patterns that dance slowly across the table's polished surface, inviting a dialogue not of haste or contention, but of measured words and shared understanding. The lender, whose name is Master Thorn, leans back slightly in his own seat, his hands folded calmly before him, fingers interlaced like the woven threads of a fine tapestry, his eyes meeting Elias's with a steady gaze that speaks of experience without judgment, a look honed from years of facilitating the flow of gold in this medieval town of Millhaven. The air between them feels charged yet peaceful, scented with a subtle blend of burning oak and aged ink, a fragrance that evokes the timeless dance of money and trust, where borrowing becomes a bridge built on the pillars of human connection. Dear listener, let this moment of gentle exchange lull you deeper into relaxation, your own breath sensing with the unhurried rhythm of their voices, low and even, like the steady murmur of a distant stream flowing over smooth pebbles, allowing the words to wash over you like a soothing tide, carrying away the tensions of the day and leaving only the calm essence of historical reflection. Master Thorn begins, his tone warm and inviting, like the first rays of sun warming dew-kissed grass. Tell me, good traveler of these quiet streets, what dream brings you to seek the borrow of gold from my humble establishment? For in this world of medieval banking, every loan is a story waiting to unfold, rooted not in mere metal, but in the fertile soil of trust and mutual fortune. Elias, feeling the chair's wood conform to his form, its grain smooth under his palms as he rests them on the arms, draws a deep breath, inhaling the room's comforting scents, and responds softly, his voice steady yet humble, describing his aspiration for a small trade in crafted goods, the need for money to purchase materials that could turn his labor into wealth, a modest fortune built through honest hands and market days. The conversation flows gently, like a river meandering through verdant meadows, with Master Thorn nodding thoughtfully, his quill resting nearby, untouched for now, as he explains the foundations of credit in these medieval times. How trust is the cornerstone, more valuable than any collateral. Invisible bond that ensures debt becomes a pathway to prosperity rather than a burden. You see, Elias, he says, his words unfolding slowly, each one weighted with the wisdom of countless dealings. In 1347, as Europe awakens to new horizons of commerce, borrowing gold is not a simple exchange. It is an act of faith, where I extend credit based on the character I perceive in your eyes, the steadiness of your word, and the promise that fortune will be repaid with interest born of your success. Elias listens, the brazier's soft crackle punctuating the pauses, its warmth seeping into his bones, easing any lingering quiet tension from the door's weight as he absorbs the cultural context. In this era, lenders like Thorn navigated the church's gentle cautions against usury, framing interest as a fair compensation for risk, allowing money to circulate and foster wealth without sin, turning potential debt into communal growth. Feel the texture of the table under Elias's fingertips as he traces the wood's subtle veins, a tactile anchor in this verbal dance, while Master Thorn continues, his voice a soothing cadence, delving into the nuances of risk, the gentle uncertainties of trade, where markets might ebb like tides, harvests falter under unpredictable skies, or competitors arise like shadows at dusk, yet all mitigated by the borrower's resolve. Risk is the silent companion of every loan. Thorn murmurs, his eyes reflecting the candle's flame, warm and unwavering, but trust tempers it, transforming peril into possibility. For if I lend you gold today, it is because I believe in your capacity to multiply it through effort, repaying not just the sum, but the faith invested. Elias nods, feeling a soft wave of reassurance wash over him, like mist rising from a morning river, and shares more of his background, his years of labor in the fields, the small savings tucked away, the family depending on this step toward stability. His words weaving into the conversation like threads in a loom, building a tapestry of mutual understanding where credit emerges not as a cold transaction, but as a warm alliance against life's uncertainties. In this serene exchange, sensory details enrich the moment. The faint rustle of parchment as Thorn gestures to a nearby ledger, its pages filled with flowing script recording past borrowers who turned debt into fortune, their stories a quiet testament to the power of trust in medieval banking. The distant hum of the town square filtering through the windows, a muffled symphony of carts rumbling on cobblestones and vendors calling softly, reminding Elias that his borrow is part of a larger web of commerce, where gold flows like blood through society's veins, nourishing dreams and sustaining communities. Thorn speaks of collateral with gentle pragmatism, suggesting Elias might pledge his tools or a portion of future earnings, not as a harsh demand, but as a shared safeguard, a tangible expression of commitment that bolsters the intangible strength of trust. Collateral is but a shadow to the light of your word, he explains. His tone is calming as a lullaby, for in truth, it is your honor that secures the gold, ensuring that wealth returns multiplied and our bond remains unbroken. Elias feels the conversation deepening, like roots extending into fertile soil. As they discuss the terms, a modest sum of gold to start his trade, repayable over seasons aligned with market cycles, interest calculated fairly to account for the lender's risk, all framed within the medieval ethos where banking was evolving from temple storerooms to townhouses like this, fostering economic growth amid feudal constraints. The air grows warmer, the brazier's embers glowing brighter, casting a golden hue that mirrors the coins they speak of, and Elias senses a profound connection forming, trust blossoming like a flower in spring, where debt is not a chain, but a seed planted with care, promising a harvest of fortune for both. Thorn shares anecdotes in hushed tones, tales of other borrowers, a farmer who borrowed to buy seed and repaid with bountiful crops, a weaver whose looms multiplied wealth through diligent work. Each story a gentle illustration that risk, when met with trust, leads to prosperity, reinforcing the cultural belief that money is a tool for upliftment, credit a gift of opportunity. As words flow back and forth, Elias' initial quiet tension dissolves, fully replaced by a peaceful clarity like fog lifting, to reveal a sunlit path, his mind absorbing the lender's wisdom. In medieval Europe, trust was the true wealth more enduring than gold, for it bound communities in cycles of give and take, allowing even the humble to borrow and build empires of their own scale. The hourglass on the shelf trickles sand grain by grain, a visual whisper marking the unhurried pace, while outside, the town's sounds remain a distant lullaby, ensuring the room feels like a sanctuary of reflection. Thorn leans forward slightly, his expression one of quiet alliance, and poses a final query. Do you understand, Elias, that this credit I offer is woven from the trust we build here, in this moment, and that your fortune depends as much on your integrity as on the gold itself? Elias affirms with a nod, his voice soft and resolute, feeling the bond solidify, the conversation reaching its natural crescendo, like a melody resolving in harmonious chords. In this gentle unfolding, dear listener, imagine the warmth of the room enveloping you, the scents and sounds creating a cocoon of tranquility, where the medieval art of banking reveals itself as a human endeavor grounded in empathy and foresight, turning potential debt into shared victory. Elias feels empowered, his spirit lightened by the exchange, knowing that trust has paved the way for what comes next. The lender reaches for his quill, the conversation transitioning seamlessly into formalization, leading us softly into the promise of return, where words become written vows, sealing the gentle pact of gold and faith. Chapter 6. The Promise of Return. As the conversation between Elias and Master Thorn winds to its natural, serene close, like a gentle stream finding its way to a tranquil pool, the lender reaches with unhurried grace for a fresh sheet of parchment from a stack on the shelf, its surface smooth and creamy, textured like the finest linen, carrying the faint, earthy scent of processed hides that speaks of ancient crafts passed down through generations in this medieval world of Millhaven. The room's atmosphere remains enveloping and calm, the brazier's soft glow casting a warm amber light over the table, where shadows play lazily across the brass scales and inkpot, inviting this moment of formalization where words of trust evolve into a tangible promise, binding borrower and lender in the quiet dance of credit and debt. Elias sits comfortably in his chair, the wood's warmth seeping through his tunic, his breaths deep and even, sensing with the subtle rhythm of the hourglass sand trickling nearby, each grain a whisper of time's patient flow, reminding him that in medieval banking, agreements were not rushed impositions, but deliberate pacts, woven for mutual understanding to foster fortune and wealth. Dear listener, allow this peaceful transition to draw you deeper into relaxation, your own mind drifting like a leaf on a still pond, absorbing the soothing details of this scene, where the promise of return takes shape, not as a heavy obligation, but as a gentle assurance, much like the moon's predictable rise each evening, offering light without demand. Master Thorn dips his quill into the inkpot with deliberate care, the black liquid glistening as it clings to the feather's tip a sound, like a soft sigh escaping as he shakes off excess drops, preparing to inscribe the terms that will secure Elias's borrow of gold. Now we shall commit our understanding to parchment, Thorn says, his voice low and melodic, like the distant hum of bees in a summer meadow. For in these times of 1347, a written promise serves as the enduring vessel of trust, ensuring that debt flows back as naturally as a river to the sea, multiplying the initial gold into shared prosperity. Elias nods, feeling a soft wave of contentment wash over him the room. Scents beeswax from candles, mingling with the sharp tang of ink, creating an aromatic cocoon that enhances the serenity of the moment where money becomes more than coins. It is a current of possibility, guided by honor. The quill scratches softly across the parchment, a rhythmic whisper like rain falling on dry leaves, each stroke forming letters in the elegant script of medieval scribes, detailing the agreement with precision yet warmth. The sum of gold to be lent, a modest amount, sufficient for Elias's small trade in crafted goods. The timeline for repayment, aligned with the cycles of seasons and market fairs, allowing payments in gentle installments that mirror the ebb and flow of life's rhythms. And the interest, calculated fairly as a token of the lender's risk, navigating the Church's teachings on usury by framing it as a voluntary gift, ensuring that wealth circulates ethically in this era of emerging banking. Feel the parchment's subtle give under the quill's pressure, Elias, imagining its texture as Thorn writes the words, unfolding in flowing lines that describe collateral, a pledge of Elias's tools, and a portion of future earnings, not as a stern requirement, but as a symbolic gesture of commitment, reinforcing the trust that underpins every borrow, turning potential debt into a foundation for fortune. In medieval Europe, such promises were often a blend of written and spoken oaths, where the spoken word carried the weight of sacred vows. Echoed in the lender's chamber, as Thorn reads the document aloud, his tone steady and reassuring, like a storyteller sharing tales by firelight. Elias of Millhaven, he intoned softly, the words resonating in the hushed space. You hereby promise to return the gold borrowed, with due increment, by the feast of St. Michael next, and thereafter in portions until the debt is cleared, bound by your honor and the witness of this script. Elias listens. The braziers crackle a soft accompaniment, its warmth bathing his face in a golden hue that evokes the very gold they discuss, and feels a profound sense of alignment, as if the agreement is not a contract but a harmony, where credit extends like a helping hand, allowing humble dreams to blossom into wealth without strain. The air thickens slightly with the scent of drying ink, sharp and fresh, as Thorn continues, explaining how this promise reflects the cultural ethos of the time lenders like him, often from merchant families or protected minorities, served as stewards of money, fostering economic growth in towns where feudal lords still held sway. Yet commerce was budding like spring flowers, reliant on trust to bridge gaps between need and abundance. Elias reflects quietly as the reading proceeds, his mind wandering through sensory memories of the town. The feel of cobblestones underfoot during his walk here, the scent of market spices that gold could help him trade in, the distant sounds of life outside, now muffled by the thick walls, all converging to underscore that this promise is a thread in Millhaven's tapestry, connecting individual aspirations to communal prosperity. Thorn pauses, offering the quill to Elias with a gentle smile, the feather's barbs soft in his grasp, and Elias takes it, dipping it anew into the ink, feeling the cool liquid coat the tip, a tactile prelude to sealing the pact. He signs his name with careful strokes, the parchment yielding beneath, the ink flowing smoothly to form letters that, though simple, carry the weight of his word. A medieval ritual where borrowing gold becomes a covenant of return, debt a temporary state leading to enduring fortune. Feel the moment's serenity deepen, dear listener, as Elias sets the quill down, the soft clink of it against the table, a punctuation of completion, while Thorn sands the document to dry the ink, fine grains sprinkling like stardust, absorbing excess with a faint rustle that blends with the room's ambient hush. With this, our promise is made, Thorn murmurs, rolling the parchment carefully, tying it with a simple cord of waxed thread, its fibers smooth and strong, then placing it in a secure chest, the lid closing with a muted thud that echoes like a heartbeat in repose. Elias feels a lightness settle over him, like mist lifting from a valley at dawn. The promise not a burden, but a beacon, illuminating the path ahead, where borrowed money will seed his trade, nurtured by trust to yield wealth in time. In this era, such agreements were sacred, often witnessed by God through a small cross inscribed at the top, symbolizing the divine oversight that tempered human dealings, ensuring credit flowed with integrity, turning risk into reward without greed's shadow. The lender leans back, the chair creaking faintly, and shares a final reflection in his calm voice. Remember, Elias, this promise of return is the heart of medieval banking, a cycle where gold lent today returns tomorrow, enriched by your labors, strengthening the bonds of trust that hold our community together. Elias absorbs these words, the room's warmth enveloping him like an embrace, the scents and sounds creating a sensory lullaby that eases any fleeting thoughts of uncertainty, replacing them with quiet confidence. Outside, the town square's murmurs grow slightly, a distant vendor's call filtering in like a soft melody, reminding him that his fortune is intertwined with the world's gentle rhythms, where debt repaid builds not just wealth, but reputation, a currency more lasting than coins. As the document is secured, Elias rises slowly, the chair's wood releasing him with a soft sigh, feeling the promise settle within him like a seed planted in fertile soil, ready to grow under the sun of effort. The air feels lighter now, the brazier's embers glowing steadily, casting long shadows that dance in harmony, symbolizing the balanced flow of give and take in borrowing. Master Thorn nods with quiet approval, the exchange complete in spirit, leading naturally to the tangible transfer ahead, where words become gold in hand. In this gentle culmination, dear listener, let the promise's serenity infuse your own thoughts, drifting like clouds across a peaceful sky where medieval tales of credit and trust invite you to reflect on life's own cycles of giving and receiving without haste or worry. Elias feels prepared, his heart attuned to the agreement's calm assurance, as the moment flows softly onward to the exchange itself, where the weight of gold will soon rest in his palm, a tangible echo of the promise made. Chapter 7. The Weight of Gold. As the promise settles into the quiet air of Master Thorn's chamber, like a feather drifting to rest on a still pond, the lender rises from his seat with measured grace, the chair's legs whispering softly against the flagstone floor, and moves toward a sturdy iron-bound chest in the corner, its surface etched with faint patterns of interlocking rings. symbolizing the unbreakable cycles of trust and return in this medieval haven of banking. The chest's lid, heavy with the patina of years, lifts on hinges that sigh, faintly revealing an interior lined with soft velvet the color of deep midnight, cradling pouches of leather that hold the tangible essence of wealth, gold coins, their gleam subdued in the glow. Room's warm light waiting to be bestowed upon those whose promises warrant the borrow. Elias remains seated, feeling the chair's supported embrace, his breaths deep and rhythmic, attuned to the brazier's gentle crackle, which now seems to pulse like a heartbeat in anticipation, the embers casting elongated shadows that dance slowly across the walls, evoking the fluid movement of money through society's veins, where credit transforms into fortune through honest exchange. Dear listener, let this moment of transference envelop you in its serene gravity, your own senses awakening to the imagined weight of gold, heavy yet reassuring, like the earth's embrace after a long journey, allowing the details to lull you into a state of peaceful immersion, where the medieval art of lending unfolds without haste, each step a deliberate note in a symphony of trust and prosperity. Master Thorn selects a small leather pouch from the chest, its drawstring pulling with a soft rustle like leaves stirred by a summer breeze, and returns to the table, placing it before Elias with a nod that conveys quiet approval, the pouch settling on the wood with a muted thud that resonates through the room, a sound both profound and intimate, like the closing of a sacred tome. Here is the gold you seek, Elias, Thorn says, his voice low and steady, like the deep tones of a lute string plucked in solitude. A modest sum, yet heavy with potential. Carry it with the same care as our promise, for in 1347, such coins are not mere metal, but seeds of wealth, sown in the soil of diligence, and repaid in the harvest of shared fortune. Elias reaches out, his fingers brushing the pouch's supple leather, worn smooth from handling, feeling the cool, reassuring bulk within, a tactile promise that debt is but the beginning of a cycle leading to abundance. The pouch opens under Elias's gentle pull, revealing the coins inside golden florins and groats, their surfaces stamped with the profiles of distant kings and symbols of mints from Florence or London, each one glinting softly in the brazier's light, their weight substantial in his palm as he lifts a few, the metal warm from the room's ambient heat, carrying a faint metallic scent that mingles with the lingering aroma of drying ink and beeswax, evoking the alchemical mystery of gold in medieval times, where it was revered as a divine gift, capable of bridging the gap between humble need and prosperous reality. Feel the coin's texture, dear listener, smooth edges worn by passage through countless hands, ridges from the mint's hammer that catch the light like ripples on a calm lake, their collective heft grounding Elias in the moment, a physical manifestation of the trust extended, where borrowing becomes empowerment, and money a tool forged not in fire, but in the quiet forge of human agreement. In this era, gold was the lifeblood of emerging banking, circulated through lenders like Thorn, who safeguarded it in vaults, protected by guild oaths and royal decrees, ensuring that credit flowed to the worthy, fostering economic growth amid the feudal landscape, where a simple loan could elevate a laborer to a merchant, turning debt into a ladder of fortune without the peril of greed. Elias counts the coins methodically. Their clink a soft melody like raindrops on a thatched roof. Each piece a testament to the lender's faith florins, bearing the lily of Florence, symbolizing purity in commerce. Smaller deniers etched with crosses, reminding of the church's watchful eye over financial dealings, where usury was tempered by charity and fair return. The weight in his hand feels profound yet manageable, like carrying a basket of ripe fruit from the orchard, promising sustenance and growth. He senses the invisible threads connecting this gold to distant mines and trade routes, where caravans traversed continents to bring such wealth to towns like Millhaven, enabling dreams to take root. Thorn watches with a serene expression, his hands folded calmly, explaining in hushed tones the practicalities. These coins, Elias, are yours to use. Wisely purchase your materials, set up your stall, and let your labors multiply their value. Remember, the weight you feel now is light compared to the fortune they can yield when trust guides your path. The room's atmosphere enhances the exchange, the hourglass's sand continuing its whisper-soft descent, marking time's gentle passage, while outside, the muffled sounds of the square, a cart's wheels rumbling on cobblestones, a child's laughter floating like a distant echo remind Elias that this gold integrates him deeper into the community as fabric, where borrowing strengthens bonds rather than strains them. As Elias secures the pouch at his belt, the leather cord tying with a satisfying tug, he feels a subtle shift within, like the lifting of a veil, the weight of gold now a companion rather than a burden, its presence against his side a constant, grounding reminder of the promise made, where debt evolves into opportunity through the medieval ethos of reciprocal trust. Thorn closes the chest with a soft click, the lid sealing away the remaining treasures, and extends a hand in farewell, his grip firm yet warm, like clasping a friend's in shared resolve, sealing the transaction not just in parchment, but in personal connection, a custom in these times when handshakes carried the force of law, binding lender and borrower in a web of mutual reliance that ensured wealth circulation without disruption. Elias stands the chair, releasing him with a faint creak, his body attuned to the new balance, the pouch's heft pulling, slightly a sensory anchor that evokes the cultural significance of gold in 1347, when it powered the Renaissance's stirrings, funding arts and trades that would reshape Europe, all beginning in quiet rooms like this where credit was extended with foresight and care. The air feels charged with completion, the brazier's flames flickering lower now, casting a softer light that bathes the scales on the table in a golden sheen, symbolizing the equilibrium restored gold given, promise received, trust the invisible force maintaining balance. Elias pauses at the threshold, glancing back at Thorn, who offers a final, gentle admonition. Go forth, Elias, and let this weight propel you toward prosperity. Return when the debt calls, and may fortune favor your endeavors. Stepping out, the door closing behind him with a muted thud, Elias feels the morning sun's warmth on his face. Brighter now, the square bustling softly with vendors and townsfolk, their activities a living tapestry into which his borrowed gold will weave new threads. The weight at his belt sways with each step, a rhythmic companion, blending with the scents of fresh bread and market herbs wafting through the air. grounding him in the reality that money borrowed is potential unleashed, debt a temporary state yielding to wealth through effort and integrity. In this serene handover, dear listener, imagine the gold's weight in your own hands, heavy with history and hope, its cool surface warming to your touch, inviting reflection on medieval banking's gentle mechanics, where every exchange was a step in a larger dance of economic harmony, fostering communities bound by trust rather than tyranny. Elias walks onward, a pouch a talisman of change, his heart light despite the metal's density, as the narrative flows softly toward the labors that will transform this gift into repaid fortune, where gold's true value reveals itself in the quiet unfolding of days ahead. Chapter 8. The Walk Home. As Elias steps out from Master Thorne's chamber into the bustling yet gentle embrace of Millhaven's in Town Square, the heavy oak door closing behind him with a soft resounding thud that echoes faintly like the final note of a distant lute, he feels the sun's midday warmth cascade over him like a benevolent wave, its rays filtering through the leaves of overhanging branches, casting dappled patterns on the cobblestones that dance lazily underfoot, inviting him to begin his walk home with a newfound weight of gold swaying at his belt. The pouch, secured tightly with its leather cord, pulls slightly with each step, a rhythmic reminder of the borrow secured, its contents clinking softly like whispered secrets, blending with the ambient sounds of the square, the murmur of vendors haggling in low, melodic tones, the creak of cartwheels turning on stone, and the distant laughter of children chasing pigeons across the open space, all weaving a tapestry of everyday life in this medieval town of 1347, where commerce pulses like a steady heartbeat, sustained by the flow of money and trust. Dear listener, allow this homeward journey to envelop you in its serene rhythm, your own steps sensing imaginatively with Elias's, each one measured and unhurried, like the slow unfolding of a flower petal in morning dew, drawing you deeper into relaxation as the sensory details of Millhaven unfold around him, the air alive with the sense of fresh-baked bread wafting from the baker's oven, mingled with the earthy aroma of damp soil from nearby gardens and the subtle spice of exotic goods from distant traders, all conspiring to create an atmosphere of peaceful abundance where borrowed gold feels not like a burden, but a key unlocking doors to personal fortune. The cobblestones, uneven and worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, press coolly against the soles of his leather shoes, grounding him in the present, each irregularity a tactile whisper of the path's history. Much like how in medieval times, the walk home after securing credit was a moment of quiet reflection, where debt transformed into anticipation, and wealth began its gentle gestation through planned endeavors. Elias pauses briefly at the fountain in the square's center, its water trickling steadily from carved stone spouts, splashing into the basin with a soothing repetitive melody that mirrors the circulation of gold in emerging banking systems where money lent flows back enriched, fostering growth without disruption. He dips his hand into the cool flow, letting droplets cascade over his fingers, refreshing and cleansing, a symbolic gesture washing away any lingering traces of the chamber's quiet tension, replacing it with a calm resolve as he contemplates the pouch's contents florins that will purchase willow branches for baskets, tools for carving, perhaps a small stall at the next market fair, all steps toward turning borrow into repaid fortune through honest labor. The sun climbs higher its light, warming his face, casting long shadows from the surrounding buildings' timber-framed structures. Leaning companionably with thatched roofs glistening from earlier dew, their walls adorned with flowering vines that rustle faintly in the breeze releasing a faint floral scent that mingles with the market's offerings, evoking the balance between nature's gifts and man's crafted wealth. As he resumes his walk, veering onto the narrower streets leading away from the square, Elias feels the pouch's weight adjust with his gait, a comforting heft that sways like a pendulum, sensing with his steady heartbeat. Each clink a soft affirmation of the trust placed in him by Master Thorn, a trust rooted in the medieval ethos where credit was extended based on character, allowing even simple folk to bridge the gap between aspiration and achievement, where debt was viewed as a seed planted in fertile soil, promising a harvest of prosperity if nurtured with care. The streets wound gently, flanked by houses where open windows reveal glimpses of daily life women kneading dough on wooden tables, their movements rhythmic and deliberate. Children playing with wooden toys in doorways, their giggles floating like light notes on the air, and Elias nods to passing neighbors, their greetings warm and familiar, spoken in the lilting dialect of the region, reinforcing the community bonds that make such borrowing possible, where one's reputation is the true collateral in a world still shaped by feudal ties, yet awakening to commercial possibilities. Feel the cobblestone's texture under your own feet, dear listener, cool and slightly uneven, each step carrying Elias further from the lender's door and closer to home, the air growing milder as he leaves the square's bustle behind, now scented with the freshness of open fields approaching on the town's outskirts, where wildflowers peek from roadside ditches, their petals vibrant in hues of yellow and purple, swaying gently in the breeze like silent well-wishers to his journey. In this era of 1347, the walk home with borrowed gold was often a meditative, interlude time to ponder the intricacies of medieval banking, how lenders like. Thorn drawing from Italian models of double-entry ledgers and bills of exchange were pioneering ways to manage risk, ensuring that money circulated to fuel trades and ventures, turning individual debts into communal wealth without the shadows of exploitation. Elias's mind drifts to these thoughts, unhurried, like clouds meandering across a vast sky, envisioning his small trade taking shape. Baskets woven with skill, sold at market for coins that would repay the loan, each sale a step toward financial independence, where fortune accumulates not in hoards, but in the steady flow of honest exchange. The path inclines slightly, leading uphill toward the town's edge, and Elias feels the pouch pull more insistently, its weight a physical echo of responsibility, yet lightened by the optimism blooming within him, much like how the sun's rays pierce through scattered clouds, illuminating patches of the road ahead, where puddles from morning mist reflect the blue sky like scattered mirrors, their surfaces rippling faintly with the breeze. Birds flit overhead their wings, beating in soft flutters chirping melodies that blend with the distant lowing of cattle in nearby pastures creating a pastoral symphony that soothes the soul, reminding Elias that life's rhythm seasons turning markets cycling a line with the repayment terms etched in thorns parchment, allowing debt to unfold naturally without pressure. He passes a small shrine at the roadside, a stone cross adorned with fresh garlands of herbs, their scent herbal and invigorating, and pauses to offer a silent prayer fingers. Brushing the cool stone, a customary act in medieval times where faith, intertwined with finance, seeking divine favor for ventures funded by credit, ensuring that wealth pursued was tempered by humility. As the houses thin out, giving way to open fields stretching like green oceans under the sun, Elias's steps become more leisurely. The pouches clink, now accompanied by the rustle of tall grasses brushing his legs, their blades soft and whispering, carrying the earthy aroma of sun-warmed soil that speaks of fertility and growth, metaphors for how borrowed gold could cultivate his dreams into reality. The sky above is a vast expanse of azure, dotted with fluffy clouds drifting lazily, their shadows sliding over the landscape like gentle caresses, mirroring the unhurried pace of his thoughts' reflections on the cultural context of borrowing, where in Europe of this time, kings and commoners alike turned to lenders for funds, navigating usury laws through creative arrangements, fostering an economy where trust was the bedrock and fortune the reward for integrity. Elias imagines his family's faces upon his return, the quiet joy of sharing his success, the gold, enabling a steadier life free from seasonal uncertainties, all grounded in the promise of return that now feels as natural as the path beneath his feet. Nearing his modest dwelling on the outskirts, the thatched roof comes into view, smoke curling lazily from the chimney like a welcoming signal. The air now scented with the familiar warmth of a hearth fire, and cooking herbs drawing him forward with a sense of homecoming. The pouch at his belt feels integrated now, its weight balanced by the lightness in his heart, a harmonious blend where debt is not oppressive, but empowering, leading toward a future of self-made wealth. Elias pushes open the gate, its hinges creaking softly, like an old friend's greeting, and steps into the yard where chickens scratch contentedly in the dirt. There clucks a soft undercurrent to the day's end, ready to share the tale of his journey and begin the work that will honor the borrow. In this gentle return, dear listener, let the walk's serenity settle over you like a soft blanket, the scents and sounds fading into a peaceful hush, inviting deeper relaxation as Elias crosses his threshold, the gold's weight now a catalyst for action, flowing softly into the labors that await, where medieval dreams take root in the soil of trust and effort. Chapter 9. The Seeds of Labor. As Elias crosses the threshold of his modest home on the outskirts of Millhaven, the wooden door swinging shut behind him with a gentle creak that blends into the afternoon's hush. Like the soft closing of a well-loved book, he feels the pouch of gold at his belt settle into place its weight, now a familiar companion rather than a novel burden, inviting him to begin the quiet work of turning borrow into bounty in this serene medieval setting of 1347. The interior of his dwelling envelops him in warmth, the straw-thatched roof overhead arching like a protective canopy, while the earthen floor scattered with fresh rushes that release a faint herbal scent underfoot grounds. Him in the simplicity of home, where the hearth's embers glow, steadily casting a soft, flickering light that dances across the rough-hewn table and benches, creating an atmosphere of peaceful purpose, ready for the labors that will honor the trust extended by Master Thorn. His family, his wife, Mira, stirring a pot over the fire, and their young son, Tomas, playing with wooden blocks near the window turn to greet him, their faces lighting with quiet curiosity, the air scented with the savory aroma of simmering stew, mingled with the underlying earthiness of the room, drawing him into the fold where borrowed gold will seed their shared future. Dear listener, let this moment of commencement wrap you in its gentle embrace, your own breaths deepening to match the unhurried rhythm of Elias's movements as he unties the pouch and places it on the table, the leather unfolding softly like petals in bloom, allowing the coins to spill out with a muted clink that resonates, like distant chimes in a quiet valley, inviting you to drift into relaxation amid the sensory tapestry of medieval domesticity, where debt transforms into diligent action and fortune sprouts from the soil of effort and care. Elias explains his morning's journey in low, steady tones, his voice weaving through the room like a calm river, describing the lender's chamber, a promise made, and the gold now before them, a modest sum of florins and groats, their golden surfaces, catching the hearth's glow, each coin a seed waiting to be planted in the fertile ground of trade, where borrowing becomes the first step in a cycle of growth, repaid through the fruits of labor in this era of emerging commerce. Mira nods her hands, pausing in their stirring the wooden spoon, resting against the pot's edge with a soft tap, while Tomas reaches curiously toward the coins, his small fingers tracing their edges, evoking the innocence of youth intertwined with the practicalities of wealth building, where family unity bolsters the resolve to turn credit into prosperity. With the gold secured in a small chest beneath the table, its lid closing with a reassuring click, Elias steps outside to the small workshop adjacent to their home, a simple lean-to of timber and thatch where tools hang neatly on pegs, their metal surfaces dulled by use but sharp with potential. The air inside carrying the fresh scent of cut wood and oiled leather, inviting him to begin the crafting that will justify the borrow. He selects a bundle of willow branches from a stack in the corner, their slender forms flexible and smooth, harvested from nearby riverbanks where they grow in abundant clusters, their bark peeling away under his knife with a soft scraping whisper that fills the space like a meditative chant, each strip revealing the pale supple core ideal for weaving baskets, a trade as old as the hills surrounding. Mill Haven, where such skills turn humble materials into marketable goods, fostering fortune without the need for noble birthright. Feel the willow's texture in your own hands. Dear listener, smooth and pliant, bending without breaking, much like the flexible nature of medieval debt, which adapts to life's rhythms, allowing repayment through seasonal earnings rather than rigid demands, ensuring that wealth accumulates gently, rooted in trust and tempered by time. Elias soaks the branches in a trough of water drawn from the well, the liquid cool and clear, rippling softly as the wood submerges, a process that softens them for weaving, the sound of bubbles rising like faint sighs, blending with the distant hum of bees in the garden outside, where herbs and vegetables grow in orderly rows, their leaves rustling in the breeze, adding a fresh, green aroma that wafts into the workshop, enhancing the serenity of his labor. As the branches soak, he sharpens his tools, a curved knife and all, their blades gliding against a whetstone with a rhythmic rasp, sparks occasionally flickering like tiny stars, the metal's edge honing to precision, symbolizing the sharpening of resolve in borrowing gold, where each preparation hones the path to repayment, turning potential risk into assured reward in this medieval world where guilds regulated crafts, ensuring quality that built reputations and sustained economies. The sun filters through gaps in the thatch, casting warm beams that illuminate motes of dust dancing in the air, a visual lullaby that soothed Elias's mind, allowing thoughts of the lender's words to resurface gently, trust as the foundation, debt as a bridge to fortune, reinforcing his commitment as he begins to weave, fingers interlacing the strands with practiced ease, the willow bending cooperatively, forming the base of a basket that will hold produce or wares at market, each twist a step toward multiplying the gold's value. Hours slip by in this tranquil endeavor, the workshop as hush broken only by the soft creak of bending wood and the occasional chirp of birds outside, their songs a light counterpoint to his focused breaths, deep and even sensing with the weave's pattern, where loops and knots create strength from fragility, much like how medieval banking wove networks of credit connecting lenders to borrowers across towns and regions, fostering wealth through interconnected endeavors without central edicts. Mira brings a mug of ale, its foam bubbling softly, the malty scent refreshing as he pauses to sip, the cool liquid quenching his thirst and renewing his energy. A simple act of support that underscores family as the true wealth, amplifying the borrowed gold's potential through shared labor and love. Tomas watches from the doorway, eyes wide with wonder, learning implicitly the value of work where seeds of labor planted today promise a harvest of stability tomorrow in an era when such lessons were passed down, orally embedding the principles of honest debt and repayment into the fabric of daily life. As the first basket takes shape, its form sturdy and symmetrical, Elias feels a quiet satisfaction bloom within, like a flower unfurling in dawn's light, a completed piece set aside with a soft thud on the workbench, its woven structure a tangible manifestation of progress, where the gold's investment begins to yield returns not in coins yet, but in crafted value ready for sale. The afternoon light softens, shifting to golden hues that bathe the workshop in warmth, evoking the color of the florins themselves, a sensory reminder that money borrowed is inert, without action. But through seeds of labor, it grows into fortune, navigated with the wisdom of medieval financiers who balanced ledgers with an eye toward mutual gain. He weaves another, fingers moving fluidly now, the repetitive motion meditative, lulling him into a state of flow where worries dissolve like mist under sun, replaced by visions of market days ahead stalls, laden with baskets, coins exchanging hands, debt diminishing with each transaction, building toward a future free from want. Outside, the garden's shadows lengthen, the breeze carrying the scent of blooming lavender that calms the senses, while distant church bells toll the hour in mellow tones. marking time's gentle passage without urgency, aligning with the slow, deliberate pace of Elias's work, where each basket is a promise fulfilled in miniature, contributing to the larger cycle of repayment. In this era, labor was the great equalizer, allowing commoners like Elias to harness credit for upliftment, turning societal structures of feudalism into opportunities for personal wealth, all grounded in the trust that lenders like Thorne placed in human potential. As evening approaches, Elias sets down his tools, the workshop falling into a peaceful stillness, the completed baskets standing as sentinels of progress, their phones whispering of the journey from borrow to bounty. In this serene planting of labor's seeds, dear listener, let the workshop's calm infuse, your thoughts drifting like willow branches in a stream, where medieval tales of diligence invite reflection on your own paths of effort without strain or haste. Elias steps back into the house, the day's work a solid foundation, flowing softly toward the markets that will bring the gold's true fruition, where fortune awaits in the quiet turning of days. Chapter 10. The Harvest of Trade. As dawn's first light filters through the cracks in the thatched roof of Elias's home, casting gentle golden rays that dance like fireflies across the earthen floor, he rises with the quiet resolve of one whose labors have taken root, gathering the woven baskets from the workshop where they stand in neat stacks, their forms sturdy and inviting, ready to carry the fruits of his efforts to Millhaven's bustling market square on this crisp morning in 1347. The air inside carries the lingering scent of willow and oil from his tools, mingling with the fresh aroma of dew-kissed earth wafting through the open door, as Elias loads the baskets onto a small handcart, its wooden wheels creaking softly under the weight, a rhythmic murmur that blends with the early birdsong outside, heralding a day where seeds of labor bloom into the harvest of trade, transforming borrowed gold into the first returns of fortune in this medieval tapestry of commerce and credit. Myra helps tie down the load with sturdy ropes, their fibers rough yet reassuring under her fingers, while Tomas watches with wide-eyed wonder the family's shared anticipation creating a cocoon of warm purpose where debt begins its gentle unwinding through the honest exchange of goods. Dear listener, let this market-bound journey draw you into its serene unfolding, your own senses attuning to the imagined push of the cart, each turn of the wheels a soothing cadence like waves lapping at a tranquil shore, inviting deeper relaxation as Elias navigates the winding path from home to square the cobblestones awakening underfoot, with a cool textured press that grounds him in the moment, evoking the steady flow of medieval economy where borrowing fueled trades like this, allowing common folk to repay through marketplace rhythms rather than noble favor. The cart rumbles gently over the uneven stones, baskets jostling with faint whispers of woven strands rubbing together, their empty forms promising to hold apples, herbs, or linens from other vendors, but today offered for sale themselves, finely crafted vessels born from the gold's investment, each one a testament to skill honed over generations, where in towns like Millhaven, market days were communal heartbeats, pulsing with the circulation of money that lenders like Master Thorne enabled, fostering wealth without the chains of perpetual want. Arriving at the square as the sun climbs higher, bathing the space in a warm, amber glow that illuminates colorful stalls rising like wildflowers in a meadow. Elias stakes his spot near the fountain, its water trickling in a perpetual, melodic flow that soothes the growing hum of activity vendors calling out in lilting voices, their words weaving through the air like threads in a loom, offering breads, spices, and cloths from distant lands, all underpinned by the invisible currents of credit that brought such goods to hand. He arranges his baskets in inviting displays, their woven patterns catching the light, shadows playing across the curves like gentle caresses, the scent of fresh willow mingling with the market's bouquet of baked goods, smoked meats, and floroposes, creating an aromatic symphony that enlivens yet calms, reminding Elias of the cultural depth of these gatherings in 1347, where feudal markets evolved into hubs of emerging capitalism, with borrowed gold acting as the catalyst for tradesmen to thrive, repaying debt through the equitable exchange that built communal fortune. Feel the basket's texture under your fingertips. Dear listener, rough yet pliant, each weave a stitch in the fabric of prosperity, where trust in repayment mirrors the trust buyer's place in quality, turning simple crafts into coins that flow back to lenders, sustaining the cycle without haste. The first customer approaches, a matron in a woolen shawl, her steps measured on the cobblestones, eyes appraising the baskets with a knowing gaze, her fingers tracing the sturdy rims, the willow's smoothness yielding slightly to touch, evoking the tactile satisfaction of well-made goods in an era when craftsmanship was the cornerstone of value, unmarred by mass production. "Fine work, Elias," she murmurs, her voice soft like rustling leaves, selecting two and handing over a handful of silver deniers, their cool weight clinking into his palm. A sound like rain on a tin roof, each coin a small harvest reaped from the seeds sown with thorns gold, where borrowing becomes bounty and debt diminishes in the gentle arithmetic of trade. Elias nods graciously, the transaction sealing with a warm exchange of words, reinforcing the social bonds that made medieval markets more than mere commerce. They were arenas of trust, where reputations ensured repeat custom, and lenders' faith in borrowers like him was vindicated through visible success, fostering a web of economic interdependence that warded off the perils of isolation. As the morning progresses, more townsfolk gather, the square filling with a lively yet unhurried buzz, the haggling of prices in good-natured tones, the laughter of children weaving through legs, the distant neigh of horses at the stables, all set against the backdrop of church spires piercing the sky, their bells tolling midday with resonant, mellow peals that punctuate the flow without interruption, allowing Elias to sell basket after basket, coins accumulating in a small pouch at his belt, their growing heft a counterbalance to the borrowed gold's memory, each sale a step toward repayment, embodying the medieval principle that fortune was not hoarded but circulated, with interest serving as fair recompense for risk in a world navigating usury's moral contours. A merchant from afar pauses, his robes dusted with travel's grime, inspecting a larger basket with calloused hands, the negotiation unfolding like a slow dance, words exchanged in measured phrases until agreement is reached, florins changing hands, the very currency of Elias's loan clinking brightly, their golden gleam mirroring the sun's rays, a sensory echo of the lender's chamber, where credit extended now returns in kind, weaving individual efforts into the broader tapestry of wealth. Elias pauses for a midday respite, sipping water from a flask, its coolness refreshing against his lips, while biting into a piece of bread shared from a neighboring stall, the crust crunching softly, flavors of grain and salt grounding him amid the market's energy, his mind drifting to reflections on the day's harvest. How each coin earned chips away at the debt, transforming obligation into achievement, much like how in 1347 Italian banking influences spread northward, introducing bills of exchange that eased trade, allowing men like him to borrow without collateral's heavy yoke, repaying through prosperity's fruits. The fountain's spray mists lightly in the breeze droplets, catching light like scattered jewels, cooling the air and adding a faint clean scent that mingles, with spices from Eastern traders evoking the global threads of commerce that even small markets like Millhaven touched, where gold borrowed locally could fund ventures echoing distant horizons, building fortunes layered upon trust. Afternoon brings a steady stream of buyers, the square's shadows lengthening gracefully as the sun arcs westward, casting elongated patterns over stalls that highlight the basket's intricate weaves, each sale accompanied by the soft rustle of goods being placed inside, the weight shifting as customers depart, their steps lighter with satisfaction, mirroring Elias's own lightning spirit as the pouch of earnings grows fuller, a tangible measure of labor's reward in this era when guilds protected artisans, ensuring fair prices that sustained families and honored debts. Tomas arrives with Mira, the boy helping to rearrange the dwindling stock, his small hands stacking with earnest care, learning the value of trade through immersion, where family involvement amplified the harvest, turning solitary borrowing into collective fortune, grounded in the medieval belief that wealth was a communal garden, tended by all. As the market winds down, the last basket sold to a farmer seeking sturdy carriers for his harvest, coins exchanged with a firm handshake, its warmth sealing the day's success. Elias packs the empty cart, the wood lighter now, wheels turning with ease on the cobblestones as he heads homeward, the pouch of earnings clinking rhythmically, a melody of accomplishment that soothes like a lullaby, each coin a seed reaped and ready to return to thorn, diminishing the debt while nurturing growth. The setting sun bathes the square in hues of orange and pink vendors, dismantling stalls with unhurried movements, their chatter fading into evening's hush, leaving Elias with a profound sense of fulfillment, a harvest of trade affirming that borrowed gold, when met with diligence, yields abundance without end. In this gentle reaping, dear listener, let the market's serenity linger in your thoughts, like echoes of distant bells, where medieval cycles of commerce invite peaceful contemplation on your own harvests, without pressure or rush. Elias returns home, earnings secure, the narrative flowing softly toward the return to the lender, where the first fruits of repayment will honor the promise made. Chapter 11. The Return of Promise. As the evening sun dips low on the horizon, painting the sky in soft strokes of amber and rose that reflect gently on the cobblestones of Millhaven's winding streets, Elias makes his way back toward Master Thorne's establishment, the pouch of earned coins at his belt swaying with each measured step, its weight a satisfying counterpoint to the borrowed gold's memory, clinking softly like a chorus of distant bells, tolling in celebration of labor's fruition in this tranquil medieval evening of 1347. The cart, now empty of baskets, trails behind him on lighter wheels, creaking faintly over the stones, a rhythmic accompaniment to the fading market sounds, vendors' final calls, echoing into dusk. The shuffle of feet dispersing like leaves in a gentle wind, all blending into a serene symphony that underscores the cycle. S-turning where debt met with diligence evolves into repaid promise, fostering fortune through the quiet mechanics of trust and trade. Elias feels the cool evening breeze brush his face, carrying hints of cooling earth and faint wood smoke from distant hearths, grounding him in the moment as he approaches the familiar oak door, its brass knocker gleaming subtly in the twilight, inviting him to fulfill the agreement woven in parchment and word. Dear listener, allow this return journey to envelop you in its peaceful cadence, your own breaths, aligning with Elias's unhurried gait, each step a soothing whisper on the path, drawing you deeper into relaxation amid the sensory embrace of Millhaven at day's end, with a sense of lingering. Market spices mingle with the fresh tongue of night-blooming flowers along the roadside, evoking the gentle closure of a day's work, much like how in medieval banking, the return of borrowed gold was not a stern reckoning, but a harmonious resolution, strengthening bonds for future cycles of credit and wealth. Elias knocks softly, the sound muffled and resonant, like a pebble dropped into a still pond, and the door opens with its characteristic groan, revealing the lender's chamber bathed in the warm glow of the brazier, now supplemented by candlelight flickering, like stars in a velvet sky, casting elongated shadows across the polished table and brass scales where Master Thorne stands to greet him, his expression one of quiet expectation, hands clasped calmly, as if in perpetual readiness for such moments of reciprocity. Stepping inside, Elias feels the room's familiar warmth wrap around him like an old cloak, the air scented with the subtle blend of burning oak and aged ink, now tinged with the evening's coolness seeping through the windows, creating an atmosphere of serene continuity where promises made are promises kept. The hourglass on the shelf trickling its sand in patient whispers, marking time's gentle flow without imposition. Elias, good craftsman, Thorne intones softly, his voice low and melodic like a lute's evening strain. The stars align early this night. Have your labors borne the fruits we envisioned, turning borrow into bounty? Elias nods, untying the pouch with deliberate care, the leather cord slipping through his fingers smoothly, and pours the coins onto the table, their golden and silver glints cascading with a soft tinkling cascade that fills the space like rainfall on leaves, each piece a testament to baskets, sold trades, made and debt diminished, where in this era of 1347 such returns were the lifeblood of lenders, validating trust and enabling further lending in a world awakening to structured finance free from the shadows of unchecked usury. Feel the coin's cool weight in your own palm, dear listener, smooth and substantial, their edges worn by honest exchange. symbolizing the medieval ethos that wealth circulated best when repaid with integrity, nurturing communities through cycles of give and take. Thorn gathers the coins with unhurried precision, placing them on the brass scales, the balance arm tipping gently with a faint creak, weights added one by one in a ritualistic dance, their metallic clinks punctuating the quiet, confirming the sum against the parchment promise retrieved from the secure chest, its surface still bearing the faint scent of dried ink and sand. The scales equilibrate, the pointer steady as a compass needle, affirming Elias's fidelity, and Thorn nods with a gentle smile, his eyes reflecting the candle's flame like pools of warm light, explaining in hushed tones the accounting. See here, Elias, this portion covers the initial gold lent, and this the fair interest a token of risk shared. Your harvest honors our pact, weaving strength into the fabric of trust that sustains Millhaven's fortunes. Elias listens the braziers crackle, a soft undercurrent, its warmth seeping into his bones, easing the subtle fatigue of the days. Exertions while reflections on medieval practices surface gently, how lenders-like, Thorn influenced by Lombard bankers, maintained ledgers with meticulous entries ensuring credit flowed ethically balancing. Church doctrines with commercial needs where repayments like this fueled broader prosperity, turning individual debts into collective gains without greed's taint. The lender inscribes the repayment in his ledger, the quill scratching rhythmically across the page, ink flowing in elegant loops that detail the transaction, a written echo of their verbal bond, the parchment's texture yielding softly under the tip, absorbing the words like earth drinking rain, sealing this chapter of the cycle with finality, yet openness for future dealings. Elias feels a lightness settle over him, like mist dispersing at dawn, the burden of debt lifted, replaced by the quiet pride of accomplishment, where borrowing has proven a bridge to self-reliance, much like how in feudal Europe, such returns bolstered emerging middle classes, empowering artisans to build modest empires of trade, all rooted in the invisible currency of honor. Thorn sets the quill aside with a soft clink, rolling the parchment carefully, and returning it to the chest, the lid closing with a muted thud that resonates like a heartbeat in repose, then extends a hand in affirmation, his grip firm and warm, conveying not just conclusion but ongoing alliance. A custom in these times when personal ties underpinned financial ones, ensuring that fortune favored the faithful. As the formalities conclude, Thorn shares a final reflection in his calm voice. Elias, this return is more than gold. It is the renewal of trust, a seed for further growth. Should need arise again, my door remains open. For in medieval banking, cycles repeat with wisdom gained. Elias absorbs these words, the room's scents and sounds, creating a sensory lullaby that eases his spirit. The distant town square, now hushed in evening's embrace, its murmurs faded to whispers carried on the wind, reminding him that his fortune is intertwined with the community's gentle rhythms, where repaid debt builds not just wealth, but enduring reputation. He rises slowly, the chair's wood releasing him with a faint sigh, feeling the pouch now lighter at his belt, containing only the surplus earnings, a modest gain to seed his next endeavors, symbolizing the true harvest of prudent borrowing. Stepping back into the night, the door closing softly behind him. Elias feels the stars overhead twinkling like scattered coins in the velvet sky, the cool air invigorating, carrying the faint scent of night jasmine that blooms along the path, guiding his walk home with a sense of profound peace. The cart trailing empty, but his heart full. The promise returned in full measure. The moon rises gently, its silver light illuminating the cobblestones, casting long shadows that dance in harmony, evoking the balanced flow of credit and repayment in this medieval world, where each cycle closed opens doors to new possibilities. In this serene fulfillment, dear listener, let the return's tranquility infuse your thoughts, drifting like stars across the night, where tales of medieval trust invite reflection on life's own promises, without haste or concern. Elias journeys home, a narrative flowing softly toward reflections on growth anew, where fortune's wheel turns ever onward in quiet grace. Chapter 12. The wheel turns anew. As the moon ascends fully into the star-strewn canopy above Millhaven, its silver glow bathing the cobblestone paths in a soft, ethereal light that casts gentle shadows like whispers of forgotten tales, Elias arrives home from his evening return to Master Thorn, the empty cart rolling to a quiet halt beside the workshop, its wheels sighing into stillness as he unhooks it, feeling the night's cool embrace settle around him like a velvet mantle, carrying the faint floral scent of jasmine and the distant hoot of an owl, marking the close of one cycle and the subtle dawn of another in this peaceful medieval night of 1347. Inside, the hearth fire crackles lowly, its embers casting a warm, amber hue across the room where Mira tends to a late supper, the aroma of stewed vegetables and herbs wafting invitingly, blending with the lingering earthiness of the day's labors. While Thomas sleeps soundly in his cot, his small chest rising and falling in rhythmic peace, allowing Elias to share the day's triumphs, the basket sold, the debt partially repaid, and the surplus coins now tucked safely in the family chest, a modest hoard that whispers at expansion, where repaid promise begets new opportunities in the enduring wheel of credit and fortune. Dear listener, let this homecoming serenity cradle you in its gentle hold-your-own eyelids, growing heavy with the imagined warmth of the fire, each flicker a soothing pulse drawing you deeper into relaxation amid the sensory hush of Elias's dwelling where the soft rustle of rushes underfoot and the faint creak of settling timbers evoke the turning of fortune's wheel, unhurried and eternal, much like how in medieval banking, one cycle's end seeded the next, fostering growth through repeated trust without the rush of modern haste. Elias sits at the table, the wood smooth and worn under his palms, pouring a mug of ale whose foam bubbles softly, its malty tang refreshing on his tongue as he recounts the lender's words of renewal, the handshake's warmth still lingering like an echo, inspiring visions of scaling his trade, perhaps borrowing again for finer tools or more willow, turning surplus into investment, where debt, wisely managed, becomes the axle on which prosperity spins, embodying the era's emerging financial wisdom, drawn from Italian modello, where credit extended to artisans like him, built empires from humble beginnings, circulating wealth through communities bound by honor. Mira listens attentively, her hands folding a linen cloth with deliberate folds, the fabric's soft whisper accompanying her nods, her eyes reflecting the fire's glow like calm pools, sharing dreams of a larger workshop or even apprentices, where the family's labors could multiply, repaying future loans with greater ease, a reflection of medieval household economies, where women often managed accounts, ensuring that borrowed gold flowered into sustained fortune without discord. Elias feels the surplus coin's presence in the chest, their muted gleam imagined through the wood, a tactile promise of continuity, much like the moon's phases waning, only to wax anew, symbolizing how in 1347 lenders encouraged repeat borrowers, viewing them as partners in prosperity, with interest framed as shared gain rather than sin, navigating ecclesiastical edicts to fuel trade's quiet revolution. The fire pops softly, sending a spark aloft like a fleeting star, illuminating motes of dust that dance lazily, a visual metaphor for the invisible currents of money, where each repaid some freed capital for others, weaving a web of economic vitality in towns like Millhaven, far from the feudal lord's grasp. As night deepens, Elias steps outside briefly, the stars overhead twinkling in vast constellations that mirror the interconnected fates of borrower and lender, the cool grass underfoot dewy and soft, releasing an earthy scent that grounds his contemplations, pondering the wheel's turn, how the initial borrow, once a seed of uncertainty, has harvested confidence, paving the way for bolder ventures, where fortune accumulates not in isolation, but through cycles of exchange, rooted in the medieval belief that wealth was a divine trust to be stewarded with care. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves of nearby trees, that rustle like whispered encouragements, carrying the faint chime of the town bell tolling midnight, its tones mellow and resonant, marking time's passage as an ally rather than adversary, allowing Elias to envision returning to Thorn with a larger request, backed by proven reliability, turning modest gains into amplified prosperity, much like how guilds in this era protected members, facilitating credit that elevated crafts to commerce without the perils of overreach. Returning indoors, Elias banks the fire with a poker, the embers settling into a glowing bed with faint hisses, the room falling into a deeper hush broken only by Myra's soft breathing as she retires, inviting him to join in rest, the straw mattress yielding softly under his weight, its herbal stuffing releasing a calming lavender scent that lulls his mind, drifting through reflections on the day's symmetry, from morning's market harvest to evening's repayment, each element a spoke in fortune's wheel, where borrowing and returning formed the rhythm of progress in feudal Europe, empowering the common man against aristocratic monopolies. Thomas stirs faintly in sleep, a small hand clutching a woven toy basket, symbolizing the generational legacy of such cycles, where lessons of prudent debt would pass down, ensuring that wealth built endured, fostered by lenders who saw beyond immediate returns to long-term communal flourishing. In the quiet of night, Elias's thoughts meander like a stream through meadows exploring the cultural nuances of medieval finance, how Jewish and Lombard bankers, often marginalized, became pillars of credit, their practices influencing Christian merchants to adopt fair lending, balancing profit with piety, where each turned wheel lifted society from stagnation, turning potential into palpable fortune without greed's corrosion. The moon's light filters through a small window, casting silvery patterns on the floor like scattered coins, a nocturnal reminder that rest precedes renewal, allowing the mind to plant seeds for tomorrow's labors, where the surplus will fund expansions, perhaps a market stall or raw materials, all aligned with the lender's open door, inviting another spin of the cycle. As sleep claims him gently, the house settles into profound stillness. The only sounds the distant call of a night bird and the faint wind sighing through the thatch, enveloping Elias in dreams of bountiful markets and growing stacks of gold, where debt is but a temporary shadow cast by the wheel's turn, yielding to light of achievement. In this era, such renewals were the essence of banking's evolution, from simple money lending to sophisticated systems that would birth the Renaissance's economic boom, all beginning in quiet rooms in homes like this, where trust turned the wheel ever forward. In this tranquil turning, dear listener, let the wheel's gentle motion carry your thoughts into peaceful drift, like leaves on a midnight breeze, where medieval sagas of renewal invite contemplation on your own cycles, without urgency or fret. Elias rests, the narrative flowing softly toward dawn's new beginnings, where fortune's wheel spins onward in harmonious grace. Word count 1854.